Celtics. Again, here's Curry for the record. It's good!
It is undeniable that Stephen Curry will go down in history as one of the greatest players to ever live and is by far the greatest shooter the world has ever seen. But there were people who actually doubted his place in history and whether or not he could win it all without having a super team surrounding him. But in 2022, he had the perfect comeback story that solidified him as one of the GOATs in basketball. Stephen Curry had done it all in his career by 2019. There was nothing left to prove anymore because he had won the NBA title 3 times and was also a 2-time MVP. More importantly, he was the first ever and only unanimous MVP in history after winning the award in 2016 by leading the Golden State Warriors to a historic 73-win season. On top of that, he had done things no one had ever seen. Curry revolutionized the game by making the three-point shot the biggest weapon in basketball. He sped up the game's evolution, leading to multiple players emulating his style and forcing different teams to adjust their offense and defense to suit the changing times. Curry's ability to create shots off the dribble and force defenses to gravitate towards him is unreal. No one in the history of the game has ever had the same impact he has had on his team. It also helped that he played on a Golden State Warriors system that made perfect use of his marksmanship and ability to draw attention.
Here in game 2. Curry, 3, rise and fire!
Even as the Warriors lost to the Toronto Raptors in the 2019 finals, people still believed he had nothing left to prove because he already won everything he needed to win. There was even a strong belief that a healthy Warriors team with both Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson at 100% could have beaten the Raptors in 2019. But that was the biggest problem in relation to Curry's place in history as one of the best players in the world and as an undisputed GOAT. The popular belief was that there were asterisks in Curry's championships. In 2015, he won his first title, but did so when both Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love of the Cleveland Cavaliers were out with injuries. Then, in 2016, they lost to a healthy Cavs team, making doubters believe they could have also lost in 2015. Though he and the Warriors did win it all in 2017 and 2018, they did so only after recruiting Kevin Durant to form the most potent team in league history. So, in other words, there were good reasons to doubt whether or not his championships were won fair and square. And the doubts started growing in 2019 when he had to start the 2019-20 season without Thompson, who was out with an injury, and Durant, who moved to the Brooklyn Nets. Playing together with teammates who were a better fit for the G League, Curry struggled with his shot that season as he didn't have other teammates who could absorb the defensive attention away from him. The heavy lifting was too much, as he got injured and was limited to only 5 games, averaging 20.8 points on 24.5% shooting from the three-point line that season. This wasn't the Stephen Curry who was winning championships and MVPs. This man looked weak, mortal, and vulnerable without any all-star teammates surrounding him. And with Damian Lillard rising to the occasion as one of the best shooters and volume-scoring point guards in the league, there were people who started wondering if Curry was even better than Dame. For one whole season, Steph became a forgotten player as the Warriors struggled to win games or make some relevant moves. But it did help them that Curry returned during the 2020 season to lead a team that no longer resembled the one that won titles a few years back. He now had Andrew Wiggins, Jordan Poole, and a few other role players flanking him. While Draymond Green was still a constant, there were no other All-Stars. Thompson suffered another injury that extended his absence to 2 seasons, making Curry a one-man show. But that was what happened all year long, as he went on a scoring splurge to prove he was still one of the best to ever do it. Curry looked like a man on a mission, scoring huge numbers throughout the entire 2020-21 campaign. He did so while playing without any other star-level teammate in what was an amazing season for one of the greatest players to ever live. Curry went on to win his second scoring championship after averaging a career-high 32 points. He even went on to finish third in the MVP voting. But while his individual performances were off the charts, the Warriors were still struggling, missing the playoffs after losing during the play-in tournament. The doubts were yet to be erased. Curry was undoubtedly a great individual player, but the question as to whether or not he could win a title or lead his team to a strong playoff appearance was still up in the air. And with basketball being a team sport, Steph didn't have the help he needed to lead the Warriors back to their glory days. But the stars seemed to have aligned for them during the 2021-22 season. Jordan Poole elevated his game to the next level, turning into one of the best second or third options with his ability to create shots and shoot three-pointers. He turned into a reliable scorer off the bench, especially with Klay Thompson returning from his 2-year absence in 2022. There was a change in Wiggins' game. In terms of talent, Andrew Wiggins was always star quality because he had the size, athleticism, and skills. But he didn't have the killer instinct or the desire to be the best. That changed during the 2021-22 season when he accepted his role as the third or fourth option and became a much better defender, using his athleticism and wingspan to his advantage. But the constant remained to be Stephen Curry himself. That was the change that mattered most. He never changed who he was. He sharpened it. He carried the habits that made him great into a season that would ask for more of him than any year since he first broke the league. The Warriors got healthier and deeper. They had wings that could defend, shooting that could punish help defenders, and young legs that could sprint the floor. Yet every possession still pointed back to Steph. The defense still tilted his way. The mood of the building still rose and fell with his rhythm. He entered the playoffs with a point to make. He had missed time near the end of the regular season. He opened the first round against Denver on a minutes plan and came off the bench. That sentence alone tells you what kind of leader he is. No pride battle, no drama. He checked in and detonated in short bursts. The moment he touched the floor, the pace changed. Nikola Jokic was already a 2-time MVP who controls games with touch and patience. Curry bent those games out of shape. He turned them into races. He dragged bigs into space. He made defenders choose between panic and surrender. Those Denver games showed how complete his game had become. He found threes off the bounce as usual. He also carved the paint with scoop finishes and quick floaters. He hit cutters. He set up screens that drew 2 to the ball. He kept moving without it. The Warriors discovered a group that shredded coverages. Curry with Poole and Thompson spaced high. Wiggins was a slasher. Draymond was a short roll passer. It looked like the old Golden State movement with new faces filling the lanes. When the series needed closing, Steph started and finished it.
Is God. You got God's recommendation. Yes. You're good.
He hit late step backs. He controlled timeouts with his body language and pace. The Nuggets stole one game with pride. Steph made sure there were no more. Memphis was a different test. Younger, faster, and meaner on the glass. They played with a chip and had the crowd to match. The Warriors took Game 1 by a single possession in a loud building. They lost Game 2 and got run off the floor in Game 5. It did not matter in the end because Steph owned the minutes that counted most. Game 4 in San Francisco turned on his control. The score was ugly. The rhythm was worse. He solved it in the fourth quarter with patience. Over and over, he chose the right action and ended possessions with purpose. The Memphis series also showed how strong he had grown. Teams tried to hit him. They targeted him in space. He slid his feet and walled up. He took bumps and stayed in balance. He rebounded in traffic in key moments. You could see the years of weight room work in little plays. Curry absorbed chest blows and could take forearm after forearm. Eventually, the Warriors closed the door in Game 6 behind a flurry from Klay and steadiness from Steph. Dallas in the conference finals was chess. Luka Doncic is a monster who bends the court with size and vision. The Mavs spaced 5 out and sent traps high. Steph never rushed. He toggled between hunt mode and organizer mode. When the Mavs switched smalls onto him, he walked them deep into the paint and lofted soft runners. When they trapped, he hit Draymond and Looney on the short roll and let the ball find the corner. When he saw Wiggins had a runaway, he drifted to the wing and forced the low man to make an impossible choice. The beauty of those games was in how simple he made them look. His gravity built an economy for everyone else. It flowed like a good offense in a pickup run. You knew who was in charge without him announcing it.
Wiggins, Curry triple.
He took home the first Magic Johnson trophy for Western Conference Finals MVP. That mattered. Not for the award itself, for the message. No Kevin Durant, no super team label stuck to his back. He had guided a group with a real mix of old and new through 3 very different matchups. He had passed every exam with poise. Then came Boston. The Celtics had the best defense in the league. They had wings with length and strength. They had a guard built to fight through screens. They had a back line that met drives at the square. and had a crowd that fed on turnovers. This was the series the doubters had been waiting for since the day he entered the league. Could Steph solve a defense that could switch across 5 spots and still remain physical? Could he survive the hunting on the other end? Could he bring his team home without a second scorer playing at an MVP level? Game 1 at Chase Center delivered the full emotional swing. Steph opened the finals with a first quarter that felt like a storm. He found space above every screen and rained from deep. Yet the Celtics erased a lead with a blizzard of threes in the fourth quarter. The takes were loud that night, but he did not blink. In Game 2, he played with bite. He picked his spots with purpose, saw when to press the gas and when to feed the posts. He pressured Boston into mistakes and put the series to Boston at 1 game each. Game 3, however, hurt Curry and the Warriors. The Celtics pounded the glass and owned the paint. Steph took a hard tangle late as bodies hit the floor. He kept playing and still found shots off the bounce.
Fires three-pointer. Bang! Steph Curry from downtown. A 15-point lead.
The game slipped away in the last minutes, and he went to the bench. Cameras caught him smiling as the clock ticked down. It did not look like a surrender. It looked like a promise. A small grin that said he knew what was coming. A calm face in the middle of a stormy building. Legends have tales like that. A look that says, I hear you, I will answer. Game 4 in Boston is why people talk about legacy. The Warriors needed a win to avoid a 3-1 hole. Curry authored a masterpiece. He carried the offense from the opening tip. Pull-up threes off the dribble. Floaters off 1 foot when Rob Williams arrived late at the rim. Drives that ended with soft touch through contact. He sprinted to the corner to hit a relocation 3 that took the air out of the room. He tracked long rebounds and started breaks. He guarded his yard on switches and fought for every inch. He scored, rebounded, and organized. It was one of the greatest finals games any guard has ever played. When the horn sounded, the series was even again. That smile from Game 3 made sense now, and the Warriors never looked back. Game 5 tested a different part of his greatness. Shooters talk about empty nights. This was one. He did not have a 3. Yet the Warriors won because he would not let a cold jumper turn into a bad game. He drove early, drew 2 defenders, and kicked. Curry manipulated the defense to create dunks for Looney and clean looks for Wiggins.
Looney. Curry back to Wiggins. Wiggins goes inside. Layup is good!
He competed on defense and sprinted back in transition. That is what maturity looks like. Your best skill fails you for a night, and you still find 10 other ways to be the best player on the floor in the moments that matter. Game 6 ended the conversation. Boston came out as expected with force. But the Warriors absorbed it and answered. Steph played free, hitting deep threes with a quick gather. He used hesitation dribbles to carve the lane, threw pocket passes that led to layups, and broke the paint on 1 possession. The Celtics kept coming, and he kept placing perfect counters in the right spots. Late in the fourth, he hit a shot from way beyond the arc and cradled his face in his hands. You could see the relief and the joy at the same time. The scoreboard told the truth as the series was over. He had his first Finals MVP falling to the floor with tears in his eyes. That was not a man who needed asterisks to prop him up. That was a champion who had carried his team through every demand a brutal spring could offer. Look at the details of that run, and the story gets even better. He answered every adjustment. Every switch, drop coverage, and box and one looked like a bad decision for the opposing team. Teams tried to rough him up, but he played through contact and kept his balance.
Here in the first half. Curry sees some room, nails the 3.
He guarded bigger wings in space and forced tough shots. On top of that, he never let his legs die, even when the offense asked him to run and cut on every possession. Conditioning is a skill, and he owns it at a historic level. Look at how his gravity built careers. Wiggins found himself because Steph kept giving him clean lanes and easy reads. Looney looked like a high-level hub because Steph kept drawing 2 and 3 defenders at the point of attack. Poole learned how to toggle between heat checks and playmaking because Steph modeled it in real time. Clay came back from years away and found rhythm because Steph created space and trusted him in big moments. Gary Payton II fits like a glove because Steph understands timing and angles that let a cutter thrive. The Warriors system does not hum without Steph because the system is an extension of his gifts. The leadership piece matters as much as the numbers. He set the tone by coming off the bench in the first round. He never chased stats when a game asked for patience. He never let a young teammate stew in a mistake. He pointed at the guys after they scored to share the shine. He kept the locker room lights. He kept the film sessions honest. He kept the message simple. Play with joy, move the ball, and trust the next action. That kind of leadership does not show up in a box score. It shows up in the fourth quarter when the group is tired and still makes the extra pass because they believe the right shot will find them. But that smile in Game 3 lingers because it captured who he is. He hears the noise and respects it. He never lives in it. Instead, he lives in the next read. He lives in the belief that if he keeps running and keeps shooting and keeps trusting the right play, the game will bend.
Curry, another long-distance shot. It's good. Steph Curry.
The best players make the sport feel like a promise fulfilled, and that grin felt like a promise. His 2022 run also cleaned up the last arguments that hung around his name. People questioned his ability to be the best player on a title team without another top 5 guy at his side. He answered. People wondered if his defense would crack under relentless hunting. It held up well. People said his threes made him streaky in ways that did not translate in June. He won a game in the finals on a cold shooting night by getting downhill and finding teammates. People asked if the Warriors' titles came from a machine that any good guard could operate. But Curry showed that he is the machine. Years from now, people will look at the numbers and nod. They'll see the rings and the MVPs and the scoring titles. They will see the streaks and the records. They will see the three-point totals that look like typos. If they look closer, they will see 2022 as the year the conversation shifted for good. The year he took every loose thread in his narrative and tied it into a knot no one can pull apart. The year a smile on a bench in Boston told the future. The year Stephen Curry wrote his ending, then underlined it with a pen only he could hold. That is how he answered the doubts. Not with talk or a roster that never had to sweat. He answered with a spring full of reads and cuts and deep threes and quiet leadership. He answered with a game that kept finding new ways to matter when defenses tried to box him in. He answered with a poise that turned hostile arenas into classrooms. By the time he placed that trophy on the table, the story was complete. He had already proven himself through the perfect comeback story. There was no one doubting his legacy from then on.